What would you do if a pilot humiliated you in front of everyone just because of the color of your skin? We don't accept black people like you in first class. Captain Hastings spat out the words with contempt, while some passengers looked on with amusement and others with indifference. But within seconds, his world would crumble. Sky Horizon Airlines Flight 317 was about to take off from New York to London. In the cockpit, Captain Robert Hastings, a veteran with over 20 years at the airline, checked the instruments with the confidence of someone who believed himself untouchable. Outside, in the first-class section, flight attendants helped passengers settle in. Among them was Amara Johnson, an elegant woman with a sharp gaze, dressed in a navy blue pantsuit that radiated power. Her dark skin contrasted with the soft lighting of the plane, and her mere presence drew attention. When she took seat 1A, some passengers watched her with curiosity, others with barely concealed disdain. But Amara didn't care. She was used to it. Everything was fine until Captain Hastings stepped out of the cockpit and walked through first class. He did so with the air of a man inspecting his domain. When his eyes landed on Amara, his expression hardened. He leaned slightly toward her and, with a forced smile, said in a low voice, "Excuse me, miss. It seems there's been a mistake with your seat." Amara raised an eyebrow, maintaining her composure. "There's no mistake. This is my seat." The captain didn't hide his disdain. His lips twisted into a condescending smile. "You see, there's certain policies in first class. I wouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable. A seat in economy might be more appropriate." A heavy silence filled the cabin. Some passengers looked away awkwardly. Others watched with barely concealed malice. The flight attendant beside him swallowed nervously. Amara narrowed her eyes. She didn't get upset. She simply observed him with a patience that sent a small chill down the captain's spine. "Are you saying I don't belong here?" Hastings sighed, glancing at the other passengers. Then he lowered his voice. "I'm just saying this class is designed for a certain type of traveler. I wouldn't want you to feel out of place." He straightened up, ready to walk away with unbearable arrogance. But Amara wasn't finished. She leaned forward slightly and, in a cold, controlled voice, spoke words that made the captain's blood run cold. "Do you know who I am, Captain?" Hastings laughed, a dry, superior laugh. "I have no idea, but I imagine someone who doesn't understand how luxury aviation works." Amara smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Are you sure you want to stick with that answer?" The captain scoffed. "Listen, miss, I'm not here to argue. I'm simply trying to maintain the airline standards. Now, if you'll excuse me." But at that moment, the cockpit speaker interrupted with an urgent announcement. "Captain Hastings, please return to the cockpit immediately." The pilot rolled his eyes and turned on his heels in irritation, walking away unaware of the storm he had just unleashed. Amara remained in her seat, terrifyingly calm, because in a matter of seconds, the captain's career was about to come to an end. Captain Hastings returned to the cockpit without giving his conversation with Amara a second thought. To him, it had been nothing more than a minor inconvenience, a way to preserve Sky Horizon Airlines' image. But Amara wasn't done with him. Minutes later, as the crew secured the aircraft doors, Hastings stepped out of the cockpit again, this time with a firmer stride. He stopped right next to Amara. His tone was sharper now. "I appreciate your confidence, miss, but perhaps you don't understand the rules of this airline. First class isn't for just anyone. We have passengers of a superior level here." Several heads turned in their direction. A businessman in seat 2B smirked in silent agreement with the pilot, while an older woman in 1C averted her gaze uncomfortably. Amara intertwined her fingers in her lap. Her expression remained unchanged. "Oh, superior in what sense, Captain?" Hastings hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully, but arrogance won over caution. "Look, I know that these days there are certain exceptions, but the people here have worked hard to earn these seats. I wouldn't want anyone feeling out of place. You'd probably be more comfortable in the back." Silence fell over the cabin like a heavy weight. Amara noticed the flight attendants tensing around her. But Hastings wasn't finished. "Don't take this the wrong way. I'm sure you did the best you could with what you had. It's admirable that you got a ticket like this. But believe me, in the future, you should consider traveling somewhere more suitable with your kind." A shiver ran through the cabin. The man in 2B let out a stifled chuckle, while the woman in 1C gasped sharply. The flight attendant standing beside Hastings went pale. But Amara smiled. She crossed her legs calmly, looking at the pilot as if he were a child who had no idea what kind of trouble he had just stepped into. You know what I love most about this airline, Captain? Hastings frowned. What? That I get to decide who feels comfortable here and who doesn't. The pilot let out a dry laugh. Oh yeah? And why's that? Amara reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. With ease, she swiped across the screen and held it up, revealing a digital document. The name at the top was unmistakable. President and CEO of Sky Horizon Airlines, Amara Johnson. Hastings felt the color drain from his face. The air in the cabin became suffocating. The man in 2B dropped his champagne onto his lap. The woman in 1C covered her mouth with a trembling hand. The flight attendants stood frozen. The captain was speechless. What? He stammered. Amara tilted her head slightly, savoring the sight of his humiliation. Captain Hastings, let me explain something to you, she said, her voice deadly calm. You are in no position to decide who belongs in my airline. The pilot opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Then, the cabin speaker crackled to life. Captain Hastings, please return to the cockpit immediately. But this time, it wasn't just an order. It was a sentence, because in a matter of seconds, the captain's career was about to end forever. A cold sweat broke out across Hastings' back. His heart pounded as he stared at Amara's phone. The woman he had humiliated, the woman who now had the power to destroy his career with the swipe of a finger. The president and CEO of Sky Horizon Airlines studied him with the patience of a predator that had caught its prey. This has to be a mistake, Hastings mumbled, his arrogance crumbling like a house of cards. This is real, Amara cut him off coolly. The pilot felt the weight of every passenger and crew member's gaze on him. The air felt thick like all exits had been sealed shut. The speaker came on again, this time with a more forceful tone. Captain Hastings returned to the cockpit immediately. But he didn't move. His legs were rooted to the ground, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. In mere moments, he had lost everything. Amara leaned back in her seat with dangerous ease. Captain, I suggest you savor these last few minutes in that uniform, she said, her voice low but sharp as a blade. Because once we land in London, you won't have it anymore. Please, he swallowed hard. That wasn't my intent. It wasn't your intent to humiliate me, degrade me, and treat me like I didn't belong here just because of the color of my skin? Amara asked, leaning slightly toward him. The pilot opened his mouth, but no excuse came, because he had done exactly that. Amara sighed and pulled out her phone again. The board of directors has already been notified. Your access to the airline is revoked. The moment we land, security will escort you off this plane. Your name is now blacklisted from commercial aviation. You will never fly again. Silence engulfed the cabin. Hastings felt his world spinning. His career, his reputation, his entire life. All of it had crumbled in a matter of minutes. I'm sorry. Amara smiled, but there was no kindness in it. No, you're not sorry. You're just scared. The speaker crackled one last time. Captain Hastings, your presence is required immediately in the cockpit. The pilot clenched his fists. He had no choice. Head low, trembling, he turned on his heel and walked toward his final flight as captain. Amara watched him go. Then, unhurried, she reached for her champagne flute and lifted it slightly, as if to toast the moment. Safe travels, Captain. And with a slow sip, she savored the sweet taste of justice. If you like this video, you have to check out the next one, where a 70-year-old black man is harassed by racist bikers until he makes a single phone call. Click now and see what happens next. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and drop a comment.